Mortgage rates have more than doubled, pricing out 60% of American renters overnight. Yet home prices remain frozen at record highs, trapping buyers and sellers alike in a market where almost no one can move. The real estate crisis isn't a distant headline. It is reshaping your future right now. The unsettling part, the forces locking Americans out of homeownership, have only just started their work. In the spring of 2020, something unprecedented swept through American real estate. Mortgage rates plunged to 2.65%, the lowest levels ever recorded. Suddenly, buyers who had been sidelined by high prices or tough lending standards rushed back into the market. At the same time, remote work untethered millions from their offices, turning relocation from a distant dream into a practical decision. Homes in suburban neighborhoods and smaller cities became the new prize, sparking bidding wars that pushed asking prices far beyond what had seemed reasonable just months earlier. Nationally, home prices soared by 40% in just 2 years, outpacing wage growth and leaving many would-be buyers scrambling to keep up. Private equity firms and institutional investors, flush with cheap capital, entered the fray with all-cash offers, often waiving inspections and closing in days. In some neighborhoods, first-time buyers found themselves outbid before they could even schedule a showing. By late 2021, stories of families offering $100,000 over asking price or skipping inspections altogether became commonplace. The market's feverish pace created a sense of urgency and vulnerability that would shape everything to come once the tide turned. By mid-2022, the Federal Reserve's fight against inflation took direct aim at the housing market. Interest rates rose from near zero to over 5% in less than 2 years, and mortgage rates followed, climbing past 6.5% and then 7%. For anyone trying to buy a median-priced home, monthly payments jumped to nearly $3,000, an increase that put ownership out of reach for the majority of American renters. The math was simple but punishing. A $420,000 home at 7% interest now required a household income of at least $110,000 just to qualify. But the real paralysis came from inside the market itself. More than 80% of homeowners with mortgages had secured rates below 5% during the pandemic boom. For these households, moving meant giving up a fixed payment and locking in a new one that could be $500 to $1,000 higher every month. The result was a freeze. Millions of potential sellers simply stayed put, unwilling to trade a once-in-a-generation deal for uncertainty. This so-called locked-in effect shrank the number of homes for sale to just 3.8 million, a level 30 to 40% below normal. With turnover at generational lows, the market that once burned white-hot now found itself stalled, trapped between unaffordable prices and immovable owners. Decades of underbuilding have left the United States short by an estimated 4 to 7 million homes. This construction deficit, combined with restrictive zoning, means new supply cannot keep up with demand, especially in high-growth regions. As a result, only 3.8 million homes are listed for sale nationwide, a figure that falls 30 to 40% below what is typical in a healthy market. First-time buyers now make up just 26% of purchases, a historic low, as they are crowded out by cash buyers and those with existing equity. The squeeze is not limited to residential real estate. Commercial property is under growing stress, with office vacancy rates climbing above 20% in cities like San Francisco, New York, and Chicago. Over $1.5 trillion in commercial mortgages are now at risk, as remote work leaves entire buildings empty. Meanwhile, property insurance costs are surging, especially in climate-exposed states. Premiums have jumped by $3,000 to $8,000 a year in some areas, and major insurers have pulled out of markets like Florida and California, leaving homeowners with few options and rising costs that threaten affordability even further. A 32-year-old teacher in Atlanta, earning $54,000 a year, sits at her kitchen table running the numbers for the 100th time. 6 years of careful saving have barely made a dent in the $84,000 needed for a standard down payment. In 1980, someone in her shoes would have needed just 5 years to reach that goal. Today, it will take 15 years. This is not an isolated story. Across the country, millennials are 8 percentage points less likely to own a home than their parents were at the same age. The consequences ripple far beyond individual dreams. Economists from major banks estimate that the housing market's freeze is shaving half a percentage point to a full percentage point off annual GDP growth as fewer people move, spend, or invest in their homes. In response, millions are leaving expensive coastal cities for places like Boise, Raleigh, and Austin, chasing affordability and a shot at stability. Analysts forecast that, barring major policy changes, home prices will edge up just 2 to 5% annually, enough to keep the door closed for many, but not enough to break the gridlock. Today, owning a home shapes more than wealth. It defines opportunity. As 60% remain priced out, the American dream is redrawn in real time. Who gets to belong and who decides?